I'm Don Pullen, Associate Pastor at the Village Church. Reflecting on the fact that residents at Shell Point were born in 5 different decades, we've decided it might be fun to look back at each of those decades and remember some of the history we may have forgotten or maybe never knew. We've already looked at the period from 1910 to 1919, so let's look at the next decade, the Roaring Twenties. At the end of the First World War, the well-intentioned League of Nations was established in 1920, the precursor of the United Nations. For much of the decade, the economy boomed. Jazz music was popular. The prohibition of alcohol, the 18th Amendment in 1920, created an underground economy ruled by gangsters. And women who had just received the right to vote, the 19th Amendment, emulated the freedom-loving flapper girl. In 1921, Congress passed the Emergency Quota Act, which restricted immigration into the United States. Although intended as a temporary legislation, the act proved in the long run to be the most important turning point in American immigration policy because it added 2 new features to American law: numerical limits on immigration and the use of a quota system for establishing those limits. These limits would remain unchanged for 44 years. In 1924, the same Congress passed the Indian Citizenship Act, granting full U.S. citizenship to the indigenous peoples of the United States. The 1920s also marked a decade full of huge advances in flight technology, with Charles Lindbergh completing the first nonstop transatlantic flight from New York to Paris in 1927. In 1929, who can forget the date of Black Tuesday, October 29th? The U.S. stock market crashed, quickly spiraling the U.S. economy into the Great Depression. Over the next few years, equities would lose almost 80% of their pre-crash value. And it was another Tuesday, October 4th, 1927, that one of the largest, most iconic sculptures known began in the Black Hills of South Dakota, Mount Rushmore, forever memorializing Presidents Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Teddy Roosevelt. One more thing some of you will remember: you know who you are. The average price of a gallon of gas was 25 cents. These are small snapshots of our world 90 years ago. I find it interesting that many of them were responses to challenging circumstances: voting, immigration, a decline in moral values. What's your response when an unexpected challenge comes your way? Fear, anger, and indifference open the door to saying or doing something you might later wish you hadn't said. But there's another choice you can make: putting your trust in God for the help and wisdom you need. Draw near to God, James, the brother of Jesus, said, and He will draw near to you. Remember, life is full of challenging circumstances. It's our response to these that makes all the difference in the world. If you don't have a local church, why not come out to the Village Church this Sunday morning at 10:15 for our worship service? Come discover our Creator who gives us strength to face these challenges with a smile. And thank you for joining us today on Village Church Connections. Have a great day.